Hello, how are you today? Beautiful day in Cologne here, pretty windy, nice winter day. This is a character obviously, and he has motion cap data, so he is animated and will perform a run. It's a slowed down run with a special effect, and that I want to show you how that works. So let's run the animation. Lots of particles. And then he shoots off in slow motion and the particles follow and slowly fall down. And here he stops and the particles reassemble there. So his body is not there anymore, but lots and lots of particles there. So let's rerun this and I'll show you how I did this. First of all, we need a character and with animation curves. And this is called motion capturing, ideally. We can animate any kind of character and create our own walk or dance or fight or sitting down of the character. But we have a slightly underestimated section here under Windows General Editors in the content browser. Where we have excellent examples to start off from. Maybe they are organized slightly differently in your Maya setting or setup. In my folder I have motion capture and then female, generic and male, and the top level here is like the dance number 1 or the dunk number 1, which I don't know what it is. The files in this folder, in these folders really, contain only the skeletons and not the geometry. So this is what I'm going for, and you have to test it. So let's go for the run now. Double click and the run is in the scene. If you press the key A, you see the whole scene because the character is very big. That's the default setting. They are very big. The animation is very fast. After 66 seconds, it's basically over, and we want to stretch it a little bit. And in order to have more pleasure with our particles later on, we could loop it so he runs a longer path, but let's just slow it down. There are different ways to do this. One way is to pick the run reference here, or whatever node has to do with the animation. Actually, the animation curves are down here. If I select the hips, you see the animation red markers here. Anyway, I pick the run reference, which contains all the animation data. And now I go to Windows. And because it's about animation, I want to slow an animation down. I go to Animation Editors and the Time Editor, which has been introduced in Maya 2017. The time editor always starts with this menu with 3 options, and we add the selected content from the scene. We selected this one, which is the animation, and we want to have it in our scene. That's how easy it is. And here we can scroll forward and backward, and this is the animation we have. It's currently 66 frames, as I just said. In the time editor, you have so many possibilities to change that animation, to loop it so he can run further or jump back to the origin or whatever. And I covered some of these things in a previous tutorial. The link is down in the description. But now we want to retime it, and that's that icon here. That's the retime icon. It allows us to change the length of the clip. If we scale it to the left, the clip will run much faster, so after 30 frames it will be over, but instead we'll go to the we will extend it much longer. Let's extend it to, well, like 200 frames. This is black here because I have a playback range of 120 and can of course extend this. So we are done with this and we have a very slow animation now. which is fine, which is actually what we wanted. So we have time to play with our particles. We select the skin, and you see when I click on the skin, I sometimes don't select the skin. We can fix this. The reason actually is because I'm selecting my things. I want to select the bones and the joints here. So I can go to Show and deactivate the joints. Sorry, the joints here. Now when I pick this at any place, I don't pick joints, I just pick the geometry. I could have picked it here in the outliner as well. So that's the geometry I have. And now I go to FX, Special Effects, and to nParticles. And we create an emitter from an object. So we go to the option box, and we need to make sure that surface is the emitter type here. In the default settings, it's omnidirectional, so it just sits there and shoots particles out into space, but we want the particles to be emitted from a surface. And in order to have a little bit more fun, let's increase the amount of particles per second from 100 to 1000. So we apply this, and this is what we'll get. Actually, I press Alt-B to make the background dark. I think this is so pleasant to watch already, and so simply done that I really enjoy it. What you see is 1000 particles per second. They start from the very beginning and they slowly fall down. Now we can make them fall down faster by clicking on the tab for the nucleus, which is the gravitation node in the Maya simulations, and it's currently set to a gravity of 9.8, which is the natural gravitation on Earth. We can of course extend this to say 330, which would be the gravity on a much heavier planet, and then the particles sink down much faster, which is not bad at all. Let's extend the animation range a little bit further to 300 frames, where the character stops, and I think the particles will just assemble there. Yeah, that's beautiful. And they're raining down. I think I like this. We go to particles, and the conserve value is the value how strongly they obey gravity, and they're floating away from the original surface. So when the conserve value is set to 1, they obey their natural laws, away from the surface and down due to gravity. If we reduce this to 0, the animation is totally different. So maybe we choose an animation conserve value in between. Because with a low conserve value, we get a little bit more impression of the character here. When the particles leave the character too fast, we don't see the steps here. It depends on your taste, really. Now let's leave it here and change the visibility of our character. So we pick the character again, go to the first frame, and now let's see what kind of material we have. Right mouse click, material attribute. We have a Phong shader, and the second value just below, right below the color, is the transparency. Let me select this in order to deselect the geometry here. Now the shader is selected. When we increase the transparency, the character becomes totally transparent, but the highlights remain. We can live with this, of course, but instead we can change the font to a Lambert shader, which doesn't produce any highlights anyway. So here, when we raise the transparency to 1, it's totally gone. And that's the parameter we're actually going to animate now. So we start here, and when the character starts to walk, right here, we want him to be totally visible. That's why we set a keyframe here. So that means before that, until here, he's totally visible. And now we make him invisible, and we've got a lot of time here because we extended our animation to 200 frames. And I would say when he reaches his goal, here is his goal, 200 frames, I would say right here, 150, we want the transparency to be 1. So we set another key, so we have 2 keyframes now. So he's totally visible. Now he's getting slowly invisible, and at frame 150 he's invisible. But the particles won't care about, they don't care about the shader and the visibility and the transparency. They just emit from the surface, and the surface is a surface node, so it's still there. So that's our goal, that's what we wanted to achieve, and I hope you enjoyed this.